أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا يليق بجلال وجهه وعظيم سلطانه الذي خلقنا ورزقنا منذ نعومة أظفارنا إلى يومنا هذا، وضعنا في هذه الدنيا وما تركنا هملا، بل أرسل إلينا نبينا المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم بشيرا ونذيرا، أدى الأمانة وبلغ الرسالة ونصح الأمة، وتركها على محجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. عباد الله، أوصي نفسي وإياكم بتقوى الله عز وجل، وكونوا بشرعه متمسكين، ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. القائل في محكم تنزيله: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May His peace and blessings be showered upon His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the one who fought tooth and nail for Islam to get to every corner of the world. We request Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow unto him His full blessings and mercy, and to whoever is following his footsteps till the day of judgment. Allahumma ameen. I bear full witness that none is worthy being worshipped but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever considers worshipping anything else that isn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we consider that the highest level of oppression. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us far away from such kind of oppression. Allahumma ameen. This evening, inshallah, I wanted us to discuss about a discipline, a virtue within the Muslim fraternity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, together with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, trained us Muslims, believers, to always find it as a concern for any Muslim believer out there to find their usefulness within the society. The one question is, how useful are you in the society you're in? As a Muslim believer, it should bother you. It's because today we are being distracted by very many factors that probably people try to look for some kind of relevancy in different acts they are doing. Someone out there thinks that in order to be relevant in a society, they need to switch to immorality. Someone out there thinks that in order to be useful in a society, they need to switch immorality. Maybe someone else might think that just because someone is good at speaking bad, probably that is their kind of being useful to the society. If we get to a level where an adult is not ashamed of switching to immorality, we really have to ask a question: who is termed to be useful in the Muslim society? It should bother you as a Muslim believer. If at all you don't have an answer to that, how useful are you within the society we are in? How much are you contributing positively to the well-being of the society you're in? If at all you have an answer to that, we are like, thank you. We are proud of you as a Muslim. If at all you don't have an answer to that, we are like, no. You're doing a lot of injustice to Islam and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's teachings. If you recite the Holy Quran, you know that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was sending Prophet Isa alayhi salam to his people, He made it a point to at least give him some guidance and modify him to meet the needs of the society. In Surah Maryam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was like, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ. Prophet Isa was trying to narrate this to his people, and he was like, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made me Mubarakan, a blessed creature within you. When the scholars were trying to translate the meaning of Mubarakan, they were like, وَجَعَلَنِي نَفَّاعًا. Allah was basically trying to train, modify Prophet Isa, training him, giving him this as a discipline, to please be a useful creature within his people. If I told you, analyze the miracles of Prophet Isa, you know very well that the cardinal goal as to why he was there, he was a factor of making sure people are having hope, of making sure he's relevant, of making sure he's useful within the society. Not only that, but the second aspect is Ainama Kuntu. Wherever Prophet Isa was going, he made it a point to at least be of a positive impact there, to be useful there. It's an indirect discipline to every Muslim to put it in mind that you're not supposed to occupy any space anywhere, not until you're positively impacting that society. Not until at least you're useful within that society. What I enjoy most in this verse, towards the end of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was like, Ma dumtu hayya. Prophet Isa was like, I was trained. I had this as a discipline of being useful in a society. And at the end of the verse, on top of being someone who prays, on top of being someone who is good at giving out charity and zakah, Prophet Isa was like, Ma dumtu hayya. I'm supposed to be that for my whole life. So the discipline in Islam is, if at all you want to be useful, you have to take it as a discipline, a lifelong discipline. If you're useful today, that should be a reason to keep you disciplined, to keep you useful even tomorrow, not until you meet your Lord. The number one question is, you're 40 years old, 50, 30 years old. How are you impacting the society? How are we benefiting out of you? You really want to convince us, out of your profession, out of the time you've lived on earth, you have no positive impact you can do on the society you're in? And if they dare ask you who is your prophet, who are you going to make mention of? Prophet Muhammad? We are like, if at all you're making him as your prophet, you really have to take that as a discipline. It should bother you if at all you're not of any usefulness within the society. It should bother you if at all the only thing you're doing here is occupying space. That's not a position for a Muslim. If you're energetic enough, how are we benefiting from that? If you're an engineer, how is the society benefiting from that? If you're a teacher, how are we benefiting from that? Even some of us are positioned in such nice positions. But guess what? You know what we're doing? We're doing injustice to those positions. Yet, the Islamic guidance is you really have to use them to positively impact the society you're in. So as a Muslim believer, out of that verse, you really have to put it in your mind. Take it as a discipline. Make sure people around you, your surrounding, is benefiting from your presence. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that understanding. Allahumma ameen. One day Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a companion approached him. He asked him two crucial questions. The number one question was like, Abdullah ibn Umar is the one narrating to us an authentic tradition. This companion was like, Ya Rasulullah, please, Man ahabbu nasi ilallah. I would like to know who is the best loved, who is the most loved in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second question was, Wa an ahabbil a'mali ilallah. Please, I would like to know what is the most loved deed in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a believer, we need those answers. If you get to know the most loved in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every believer is going to long to be that. If you get to know the most loved deed in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every Muslim believer will definitely take it as a concern to make sure they are doing that. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, being the best of humanity, he made it a point to give out well-packaged answers. The most loved in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet was like, Ahabbu nasi ilallah. The most loved in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أنفعهم للناس is someone who is having the virtue of usefulness, someone who the society is benefiting from his presence. The one that we benefit from most is the most loved in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One social example, someone who cleans his mosque is loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala most better than you who just comes here to occupy space. It's because if at all they don't make this mosque clean, you will not enjoy your staying here. You will feel the impact of their not cleaning it. Someone who cleans the washrooms is most loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's because if they dare stop doing that, we are going to feel the impact of them stopping. Therefore, they are loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The number one question is, out of whatever you're doing, are you sure if you stop doing it, we are going to feel the impact? If the answer is no, something is wrong. If the answer is yes, then you're being a perfect Muslim believer. That is a discipline that every Muslim is supposed to take on. How I wish every Muslim believer understood that. It's going to bother us. You're not supposed to at least occupy anywhere, not until you're positively impacting there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that understanding. The second question is, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave an answer. وَأَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, the most loved deed in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet was like, سُرُورٌ تُدْخِلْهُ عَلَى مُسْلِمٍ, joy, happiness that you put in front of a fellow Muslim, in front of your other fellow Muslim believer and sister. Anything you do to make sure you're putting hope in someone, to make sure you're putting happiness in someone, that is enough for you to be useful in their lives. Prophet knew that probably he was not more specific. He went further to bringing out some examples. Someone who wants to be useful in our society, in our lives, these are some of the take-homes. The number one aspect, Prophet was like, تَكْشِفُ عَنْهُ كُرْبَةً. Have you considered at least seeing someone through a dilemma and a calamity? If at all you want to be useful in someone's life, please look for someone who is going through a hard time. Be a solution to them. Someone who is hungry, someone who has no shelter, give them that shelter. Someone who has someone who is having a problem, solve that problem. You're definitely being useful in their lives. If at all it's not good for you to understand that, Prophet was like, أَوْ تَطْرُدُ عَنْهُ جُوعًا. If at all you can't do that, have you considered at least feeding someone just to make sure you're useful in that aspect? It's very easy to dedicate yourself and you're like, at least every week I'm going to take some food to someone who is needy. We are like, you're useful. It's just enough to at least out of your income you earn monthly in a fortnight, who is benefiting from that income of yours? To make sure at least if at all you're no more and you've passed away, someone is going to remember you for that. And those are the sincere du'as people get as they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَوْ تَطْرُدُ عَنْهُ جُوعًا. And lastly, أَوْ تَقْضِي عَنْهُ دَيْنًا. Have you considered clearing their debts if at all you want to be useful in their lives? You have a friend of yours who is having a debt of 10k Ugandan shillings, and you turn them to be your best friends. What are you waiting for to at least clear that debt for them, to be useful in their life in that line? Are you waiting for a sheikh here to tell you that? We are like, no. If you follow the Islamic guidance, that's enough for you to at least tap into those different dynamics to make sure you're useful in someone's life. I would like to put your attention that wallahi al-azim, your presence, we have nothing to do with your presence. Before you demand someone to miss you, we don't miss you physically. No, we miss the good in you. Someone who passed away, you don't miss their presence. You miss the good they used to do. So if you're useful in someone's life, that alone is going to push them to at least remember you as you die. when someone supplicates to Allah and they are like, oh Allah, that Muslim believer of mine dedicated themselves to at least see me through hunger to being satisfied, please Allah, ighfir lahu warhamhu, please Allah, pardon them and forgive them. You really think Allah is unfair to a level of not pardoning you? If at all they are sincerely saying that, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that understanding. I believe if every Muslim believer understood that as a discipline, as an aspect, I believe we are going to be the best of all humanity. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that understanding. Allahumma amin. Abebitiibwa abampuliriza, akawungeezi k'olwaleero njagadde twogere ku nsonga ey'okubeera ow'omugaso mu bulamu bwaffe. Kimanyikidde olwaleero ti abantu bangi nnyo basazeewo okubanga banoonya ebintu ebibafuula ab'omugaso mu bitundu byaffe. Waliwo omuvubuka alowooza ti olw'okuba ajja kuyimirira mu maaso ga kamera atandike okuwemulawumula buli kiramu afune likes nga 1,000 kati mbu wa mugaso nnyo atambule we yeekweka musereebu. Kati waliwo n'omulala omwana omuwala eyeeyambula kati nga ye alowooza ti bw'aneeyambula bw'atyo kati wa mugaso nnyo wa kitalo. Bwe tutuuka mu nsi ng'eyo ng'abasiraamu tuba tubuuza naye ffe mu busiraamu ow'omugaso yaani? Oba oli abo abantu batandika okunoonya ku bintu ebituufu ebibafuula ab'omugaso nga mu butuufu bwa mugaso. Obusiraamu y'eddiini eyajja okubanga ekumaakuma abantu baayo okusobola okubeera ab'omugaso, tusobole okuwangalira wamu nga tuli ba mirembe. Kinajjukirwa nti Allah mu Qur'ani ey'ekitiibwa mu suratu Maryamu yatunyumiza ti bwe yali atuma Nabbi Isa yamuwa ebitendo ebimuwawula ku balala. Nabbi Isa mwennyini atunyumiza ti wajaalani mubarakan, Katonda we kye yamukolera yamufuula omuntu ow'emikisa. Abayivu ba Qur'ani bwe bali bakinnyonnyola bagamba nti ow'omukisa kyali kitegeeza Nabbi Isa Allah yamufuula omuntu ow'omugaso aina ma kuntu, buli wamu we yateekanga ekigere nga balina ofuna omugaso ogulimu. Si n'ekyo kyokka, wa awsani bisalaati wazakaati ma dumtu hayya. Nabbi Isa ayongera okugamba nti Katonda wange annaamidde n'okunnaamira neekwatire ku swala eyo, zaka eyo mpeeyo n'okuwa, okusaddaaka nsaddaake ebbanga lyemmalanga ndi mulamu kyenjagaddemu. Tinfe mu busiraamu yeddiini etutendeka tutobeera wa mugaso leero lwokka enkya n'obivaako nti kati okooye. Twagala tukulabe n'omugaso ogwo, wangala n'omugaso ogwo paka we weefiira, yeddiini y'obusiraamu kyetutendeka. Tuba tukyali awo Nabbi waffe Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahaba omu najja n'amubuuza, tuwange mbaka wa Allah, nze njagala omubuulireyokko ani akyasinza okwagala mu maaso ga Allah. Ekibuuzo ekyokubiri n'akimusimba ti njagala omubuulireyokko mulimu ki Allah gwakyasinza okwagala, neme kudaagadaagana mirimu mingi mingi, kumbe ate nawe nnyinza okupointinga n'enfuna empeera ennyingi. Nabbi yalina answers nga nnyingi nnyo naye ze yamuwa ze zino. Yamugamba nti ahabbu nnaasi ila Allah, ng'oyagala okumanya Allah gwakyasinza okwagala, anfa'uhum linnaasi, ye muntu nga tumuganyulwamu nnyo, gwe tusinga okuganyulwamu. Example gye nsinga okuleeta ebiyigo byaffe wano mu Masjidi Nuur, yenna abirongoosa wallahi ayagala nnyo mu maaso ga Allah okusinga gwabiddugaza ne ssente zo n'ebitiibwa byo, kubanga bw'alekeraawo okubirongoosa ffenna tujja kuwanga tetukyasobola kuwangalirawo. Kyekimu nalongoosa wano omuzikiti, bw'akomyawo okulongoosa omuzikiti onajja wano n'osalirawo n'ekkansi y'enyirire. Ffe nga tugamba nti omuntu ono oyo ayagalwa Allah mu maaso ga Allah, ayagalwa nnyo kubanga kyakola ekyo ffenna tuganyulwamu. Ekibuuzo ekisookera ddala, gwe kyokola ekyo bameka abakiganyulwamu? Gwe towulira nga kiteekeddwa okuba nga kikulumya omutwe ku myaka gy'olina egyo, nga wallahi akuganyulwamu ye mukazi wo n'abaana bo bokka, teriyo mulala. Katugamba nti nedda, omusiraamu bw'oli w'alina okubeera ateekeddwa okuba nga alina abantu kye bamufunamu, amaanyi g'olina ga amangi bw'owangalira bagafunamu ki? Amagezi g'olina ga amangi bw'owangalira bagafunamu ki? Essente z'olina ezennyingi bw'owangaliramu bafuniramu wa? N'ensaka wagaana okutoola. Ffe nga tugamba nti nedda, omusiraamu bw'akitwala nga disipulini, ng'oyagala Allah akwagala ennyo, noonya omulimu gw'okola ng'abantu bagenda kuganyulwamu. Tusaba Allah atufuula abantu abo. Ekintu ekyokubiri, nabbi n'akiddamu tyanakyasi mulimu ki Allah gwakyasinze kwagala maaso ga Allah. Nabbi n'akiddamu nti sururu tudkhiluhu ala muslimi, essanyu essuubi lyoyingiza mu bulamu bw'omuntu. Omulimu gwonna gwokola gulina gukuteekako akamwenyumweru, ekyo kyokka Allah kyagala nnyo okusinga omulimu omulala gwonna. Nabbi n'atuuka n'okukinyura mu hadiisi endala, wala an amshiya maa akhi fi hajatin, nze nabbi wammwe nabbi yagamba nti nze okubeererawo mukwano gwange muganda wange ne mubeerawo nsobole okubeera ow'omugaso mu bulamu bwe nga nina kyenkola, ahabbu ilayya, nze nkyagala nnyo min an a'takifa fi hadha almasjid, fa ashara ila masjidi. Nabbi yagamba nti okubeererawo munno n'obeera wa mugaso mu bulamu bwe kisingako omuntu agenze e Madiina mu muzikiti gwa nabbi n'akoleramu etikaafu. Ffenna tumanyi obuzito bwa etikaafu. Naye nabbi ng'alinga atendeka abantu abamugoberera, titokkirizanga kubeera wantu nga kyokolawo kyokka kwe kumala ekifo. Buli wobeera oteekeddwa okuba nga kikuli mu birowoozo. Abantu bano banganyuddwamu batya mu busobozi bwo, kyekyo nabbi kyakutendeka. Nabbi yakimanya nti olugezigezi lungi olwaleero abantu basobola okwebuzaabuza, n'atandika n'otuleeterako examples kutya bw'oyinza okubeera ow'omugaso mu bulamu bw'omuntu. Example esooka, takshifu anhu kurbatan, oyagala kuŋŋamba nti mu bantu bonna abali mu duniya wano 10,000 kati eziri wano temulimu muntu gw'osobola mumalira kizibu. Okakasa mu busobozi bwo toyinayo omuntu gw'osobola kusanga yonna gy'owangaalira n'omumalira ekizibu ky'alina. Wakatambula ku bantu bameka n'obabuuza nti naye gwe obuzibu obuliruddawa, noonyayo akaana ka siniya 4 waakiri kakugambye nti siina registration, okawe registration fee kakujjukirire ngaawo kuba bwe busobozi bwo. Noonyayo omwana atalina seeti waakiri, bwobanga olina 2,000 mugulire seeti eyo, n'alina akakadde noonyayo gwoyinza okumalira akakadde ako kamuwe. Obusiraamu kye bututendeka, takshifu anhu kurbatan, noonya bunoonya muntu gwoyinza kumalira kizibu. Buli omu obusobozi bwe gyasobola okikola ekyo. Ekyokubiri, aw tatrudu anhu juan, ekyo bwe kiba kiganye kale noonyayo omuntu gw'oliisa. Bino ebintu byonna nabbi byayogerako, they are basic needs, byebintu omuntu byeyeetaaga ebisookerwako. Naye n'omuntu ow'okuliisa akujjukirire nga nti omuntu oyo buli lwakutaana andiisa akyabuze, naye ng'olina sente z'oyingiza buli kaseera, olina ne wozimalira awateetaagisa, nekisemberayo ddala awo takudhi anhu daina. Kale funayo omuntu gw'osasulira ebbanja liveewo, olina mukwano gwo bamubanja omutwalo, kyokoyingiza emitwalo 20, naawe olinze kati muwani atuuya ne gakugamba nti bannaaye muyambeko muwogo omutwalo, ebbanja liveewo. Otuswazizza ng'omusiraamu, eddiini yo gy'okkiririzaamu ekutendeka, toteekeddwa okwegulira. Noonyaayo ekikufuula obw'omugaso mu bulamu bw'abantu. Njagala okujjukiza nti gwe ng'omuntu tetulina kye tukufunyamu, tetwagala nnyo okulaba ng'oli awo. Naye bw'onaafa, ekirungi tubadde tukuganyulwamu tetugenda osinziira okujjukirira. Bw'ofa kati olwaleero tumala ewiiki nga tukyakujjukira kiki otukoledde. Bw'ovaawo kati olwaleero tugenda mmala ssaawa busaawa okwerabira, oba tugenda mmala myaka na myaka nga tukujjukira. Buli omu ekyo ansa amanyi. Bw'obanga okakasa tomala na wiiki nga tukyakujjukira, okyali bubi nnyo, kubanga gy'ogenda okugenda eyo ogenda kwetaagayo enduwa y'omuntu gwe waliisanga nga yekka yakimanyi nga yayinza n'okujjukira oba oli awo nga n'abaana bo bakwerabidde. Tusaba Allah abeere nga atuwa enjigiriza ng'eyo. Tusaba Allah atufuule abantu ab'omugaso mu bulamu bwaffe. Tusaba Allah abeere nga atuwa omugaso ogwo n'enjigiriza eyo mu bulamu bwaffe. Aqulu qawli hadha wastaghfirullaha li wa lakum wa lisaa'iri muslimina min kulli dhanbin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwa at-tawwabur rahim. Al-mahmud huwa Allah wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dahu wa ba'd. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, I would like to conclude my sermon today with 3 factors. Factor number 1, please, let's get to know that anything you do that extends the virtue of being useful to someone else is far loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than anything you do with a personal interest. Please, let's remember that. Secondly, please never undermine someone who is trying to be useful. If they're as good as being useful, you're not supposed to demoralize them. And if you're here and you're being useful, please don't even mind people who are speaking. They will remember that when you're normal. Just continue being useful. Lastly, if you don't want to be useful, no one is forcing you. Just do us one favor. Never harm anyone. Don't hurt anyone. We won't be bothered with you not being useful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that understanding. Ab'ebitiibwa, maliza khutba yange ey'olwaleero n'ensonga ssatu. Esooka, tujjukirenga nnyo nti omulimu gwonna gw'okola nga mulimu abantu abaganyulwamu gusingira ddala omulimu gw'ofunamu ggwe wekka. Omusaala gwo gw'ofuna buli mwezi tetwagala nnyo mumanya bikwatako. Tetwagala tuwulire nti olinamu discipline nti bw'ofuna omutwalo gwo olinamu 2,000 z'owaayo omuntu omulala n'asanyuka nga tugamba nti oli musiraamu mulungi. Ensonga ey'okubiri, tetumalanga mu bantu babadde ba mugaso maanyi ate. Bw'oba tosobodde ebbeera wa mugaso, ate lwaki omulamu abantu ababadde ab'omugaso amaanyi? Abo baleke, kuba bwe banaalekerawo ebbeera ab'omugaso, tugenda fiirwa ffenna. Naye tuli wa mugaso. Ate olina oluga oyogera owalampa buli muntu yennayo abadde ow'omugaso batugamba nti swalako nabbi wo ababe nabbi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tolina kukola bw'otyo. Bazzemu buzimaanyi era bw'obeera wano ng'olina omugaso abantu gwe bakufunamu. Gwakulembera ekyalo abakikuuma, ye gwe omugagga akulembedde ku kyalo wane zaka. Togwanga mu maanyi nga bakuwalampa. Tukwegayiridde tukolere ffe kye twagala. Simbulirawo okubeerawo ow'omugaso. Bano balijjukira nti obadde wa mugaso ng'ovuddewo. It's just a matter of time. Saba nga atuwa enjigiriza ngeeyo. Ensonga esemberayo ddala, bw'oba toyagadde ebbeera wa mugaso, bw'otalowooza nti otulumya, era tova waneeyo n'ogamba nti kati ssaawa katumulageko nti naffe tetugenda bbeera ba mugaso, tetukuyinaako buzibu. Genda bugenzi mu maaso, funa ssente zo zeeriire nga tolina gw'ogabyeko, tetukuyinaako buzibu. Tugenda kusabayo ekintu kimu, tobaayo gw'okusaba. Bw'oba tobadde wa mugaso, it is okay, wangaala, fa bakuziike, naye tobaako gw'okusa. Naye tobadde ate wa mugaso, ate okusa abantu. Saba Allah abeere nga atuwa enjigiriza ngeeyo. Mu butuufu nga kwategeera ensonga nga basiraamu feesiitsana, kunaba abantu abasingako babaalayishi balashi. Mu myaka kyesuuliini nakyo kisaawayi. Mugaso kiina kwesiruza kufunamu. Nga wafiire essaawa atiiti, kuna kushegulira kukiina kyesuukolera abantu. Mu butuufu nga mbaawota nuswalemu ng'omusiraamu. Kyo kyoli nkini kuba nga kikumala kuli halaasi kulumora sawa kihantandi kuhola shini nashi kubona nga abantu besindimo banfuna mu kumugaso saba wena abenga kuwa insomesayo. Allahumma amin. Allahu wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وارض اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء منهم أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اجعلنا من الناجحين ولا تجعلنا يا مولانا من الراشدين. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل ونعوذ بك اللهم من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر أموات المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم وعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. يا مقلب القلوب والأبصار ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى طاعتك.
Qibla Islamic Media. Qibla Islamic Media.